Welcome to Unhinged, Unfiltered, and Unscripted, where I come to you with another car something. Let's put it this way. I'm in my car. I'm in a weird mood. So I figured why not come here and talk for the next 21 minutes while I drive home. I do apologize in advance. This one may have a bit random yelling at other passengers on the roof because again my mood is slightly off, so I'm not the happy-go-lucky bright and shiny, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed Jen that I normally am. So just a heads up, I'm also behind this incredibly slow minivan, which normally would also bug me, but I'm not a rush to get home. Also, I'm not super angry about it either because currently driving with a donut on my car. So I'm not technically supposed to go over 50 miles per hour anyways. So again, it doesn't really bother me all that much. However, it doesn't help the road rage side of me. But we'll try to contain it. Hopefully, me talking to myself slash you guys, my listeners, it helps. But I actually wanted to come on here and actually kind of, well, one, talk about two reviews that I had gotten at two separate times. And I kind of, it really made my day, let's put it that way, because I was told by two different people at two different times. Also, by the way, purple Jeep. Sorry, that was a random thought. But these two people also don't know each other, so therefore it wasn't like two reviews from the same friend group, which I think is pretty cool because it's the fact that they said the same thing, but they don't know each other kind of really makes it seem truthful. Not that I would ever assume that either one of these two people were lying, but just it just made it more real, I guess. But the review was, or let's put it this way, the synopsis of the review was that listening to my podcast was real and genuine and like authentic. It wasn't like these professional ones or these like scripted ones, which I know that's kind of in our name, unscripted, but at the same time, like it was real. It was something that they could relate to and they could follow with, and it was, you know, just raw. And it made me feel good because like that's kind of why I started it all. And I also wanted to kind of talk on that too, because I'm not entirely sure. As some of you know, I don't really like the sound of my own voice. So for me to go back and actually listen to these episodes and to edit them is really hard for me, which is why a lot of them get uploaded without the editing, just because it's really hard for me to listen to my own voice. But so I'm not sure if I actually talked about the reason why I had started the podcast altogether. But a little bit about that actually, because I was just listening to one on my drive to my doctor's appointment, and a little bit on the way home until I decided to do this instead. But I was listening to it to the basement yard, which I know some of you from TikTok knows that I'm obsessed with that podcast. I think Joey and Frankie are hilarious. However, I started from the beginning. So I'm still really in the first season. I don't remember the episode itself, but it's around December of the first season. And there, honestly, that was the reason kind of why I did do the podcast in general. Now, real quick, before I talk about my reasoning why, I wanted to talk about the fact that an episode I was listening to, I think about two episodes earlier. So the early season, by the way, is just really Joey talking. Sometimes it's like his brothers that will join in or his girlfriend. But for this episode in particular, it was just him talking. It was him talking about how shitty YouTube was, right? And how the people on YouTube, they do pranks, but they're like staged and they're fake and they're not real. And that's how generally the whole like yard of YouTube is nowadays. It's just all fake BS of stupid shit that people do to get attention or to get money or to get views. And then how he talks about how like he's not that type of person, or he knows that he's not for everybody. And then he shows like gratitude for those who do follow him and do listen to him and do subscribe and whatever. But he was saying how like he keeps it real, he keeps it honest, and then like if he ever does get stale, because it does happen, that he would want the viewers to kind of tell him that, hey, like you need to come up with something new or something better. And I would hope my followers, by the way, do the same thing. But he was just talking about how like he tries to keep it as real as he can. And I like that too, because again, that was one of the things that I wanted to keep true to the podcast itself for me, was I never wanted to be fake or to be seen as somebody who's, this silly of a person or whatever. Like I wanted to be true. I wanted to be genuine. I wanted to be real. So like I know like we've changed names. We have co-hosts, we have guests, we have all of this, but it's never something that I personally like rehearse or react or anything. Like everything that you get is basically just 100% real, which sounds crazy, especially on the days that I am completely out of my mind and just off my rocker. But at the same time, like it's just something I hold true to myself because I've been called, fake or an imposter so many times in my life. And so over and over again, like for stupid things and for other things that I never wanted to come across that way to, my viewers or listeners or whatever. So the fact that I got told twice now that, is this something people can relate to, but also it's something that's raw and truthful and honest, it genuinely just made me feel so much better that what I am doing is actually effective and working, and the whole, reason behind it. So my reasoning behind it was when I first started the podcast, yes, again, it was a different name. And at the time it was a solo project, which turned out I hated talking to myself, which ironically now seems to be what I do more than have my co-host here with me, but I generally seem to talk to myself more. But I think I'm getting better and more comfortable with that, but that's besides the point. But it started because I forget why someone asked me to tell my story, but someone asked me to tell my story on TikTok because I guess I was talking about something and I was offering someone advice, and then someone wanted to know like everything, and they were like, "I'm curious to know like what you've been through, what you've seen, what has happened, so where you can offer these advices, but also so we can get like a better knowledge of who you are because you don't disclose much, you don't talk about much, you don't let on, you know, the stuff that has made you you." Not that it was a bad thing. Like they didn't want to know it in a bad way, but like they wanted to know like how I became the person I am to be so genuine and so honest and so real, and like what has made me that way, I guess, in a way. But anyway, so I started telling my story, and I got to be about like middle school, high school era, because I had started talking about my sexual assault that had happened to me when I was 12. And at that point, I had already gotten through all the bullying that I had gone through, and all the other weird traumas that I had experienced. But then I also and then I started talking about the sexual assault, and that's when TikTok had flagged me for promoting sexual assault. Promoting it. They thought I was promoting it. I was like, no, 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 not promoting. I was talking about an experience that had happened to me, and I wasn't even like super negative about it or even super, like I didn't use certain words for that reason, but I also wasn't like super like, hey, great thing to do, go do it. No, like I had said, the dangers of it, and like how women are very more subjective to it, but also they don't talk about it. The same with men. Men won't talk about it either. And how like these things are unacceptable, and how like it doesn't matter like the clothes you wear. That should never happen, right? So like I had tried to appeal it. I was like, listen, there is nothing in that live stream that was said in a way that promotes it. It was all about like educating people, and like try to help those who are silenced because of it, and like the whole stupid, like the whole thing, right? But anyways, they denied my appeal. I got 2 weeks banned from it. I was like, well, fuck. Like now, what do I do? So actually, ironically, I thought about starting YouTube. That was so confusing. I was like, no, fuck this. So I ended up talking to a friend of mine who unfortunately is no longer my friend, which is sad, but I won't get into that. And she was telling me about a podcast she has. And so I was like, oh, well, I never really thought about the podcast avenue before, but like I do follow this one podcast, which is The Basement Yard. And I was like, I love them. Like, they're super cool. Like, at this time, I was following them really on Facebook, on TikTok. So, like, I was only seeing clips of it. But then I downloaded the podcast app and I would listen to them. And then I also would listen to Wine and Crime, which is a true crime podcast. And I like them too. They're for three friends from Minnesota, I think, who talk about true crimes while drinking wine that they think it best pairs with it. So those two podcasts were actually the inspiration behind mine. And because I liked how, again, not only do they use humor certain times during like real things, like real trying, emotional or like heavy topics, but they use humor to subject it, but also like to work through it. That way it stays kind of funny and lighthearted while talking about something serious and like super important. So like those two podcasts were kind of like my whole backing, my whole inspiration for mine. And that's kind of like the only thing that I try to stay true to is as best I can, try to keep it real and authentic as I can with, with the information that I would try to provide. Like, granted, yes, I know that with true crime, with the Wine and Crime one, they're very, I don't want to say that they're scripted because they're not really scripted, but they do have like their talking points because they have real cases that they have to talk on. So they have like they usually give a definition of the whatever case they're talking about. So it was like necrophilia or arson or like something like that. They would give like a general description of like what it is, what it's like, what type of people kind of commit these things, and give like a backing of what it is. But then they also have specific cases that they talk on. So it's a little bit on like a little bit more informative, but also documented, which is also scripted in a way. And I just learned that in the Basement Yard, it's not really scripted. He does write like talking points or like he'll write down a joke here and there, but like for the most part, it's all improvised, which is again a lot what I do because of the fact that I generally don't write things down because if I do write it down, chances are I'm not sticking to it anyways. So a lot of my stuff is improvised, unless again like when I do the Killdozer episode, that will be a little bit more on a pinpointed thing, so I can try to stay on track, but also provide the best information I can. But again, I'll try to keep it as improvised also as well. But so like I took basically the two things that I really liked from both of those podcasts and kind of incorporated it into mine. And I genuinely do love what I do, and I know that right now our following is small, and yes, we are technically on YouTube, which yes is funny, but then at the end of that one episode where he talks about how YouTube is shit, he says if you do go on YouTube, just don't do what everybody on YouTube does. So like in a way, I don't because I don't really conform to most of society. So a lot of trends I don't really follow because fuck that, and who has the time? I set my own trends, and some of which are not really positive, but that's neither here nor there. So in a way, like, yeah, we do have a YouTube channel, which is generally just these episodes of the podcast you find there. It's not the video, which I'm trying to figure that out because I do pay for videos. So like where podcast could be done via video, but I can't figure that out yet, so I have to look later. But we are there technically for those who need another resource to find us. But yeah, I generally like that was like the whole like my whole thing. Like the name part that could change, or like my co-hosts from time to time could or possibly will change, or like even I might start another podcast. Actually, that's kind of in the works with another group of friends that I'm in. So I will be on a different one as well as this one. I'm not giving this one up. Don't worry about that. But it doesn't matter for me what I change with this one. The name, the co-host, the logo, any of it, and all that part doesn't matter to me. I'm not so set on any of it. But the one thing that I will stand by, the one thing that I will hold true and like stick with is my authenticity. I plan to always keep it real, always keep it like for the people because that's just something I am. Like I don't want to be disingenuous and one, I don't want to talk on things that I don't really know on or understand. That's why like I will have other people, and there have been other people on this episode or this podcast who are, like, for instance, we had a single mom who came on and talked about what it's like to be a single mom, but then we also had one that came on that was a stepmom. And like, so like I will have others that experience these things that I myself don't generally go through, and we will talk about it because I know for a fact, like, I don't know what it's like to be a single mom. And I do know that there have been times when I will say, kind of like, I won't refer myself to being a single mom, but like I will say, like, sometimes it feels as though I am one because, like, my husband constantly is working a lot, and he does work a lot. And he works a lot because he's providing for us. We are a one single family income home. So like he does work a lot of hours. So like some days, I feel like sometimes some of the things that I go through with the kids, I'm doing it alone. And I know I'm not. And I know that he's there both financially and supportive and all of these other things that are great. So like when I do refer to it as feeling though I am single mom, it's not it's not like I'm referring to myself to be like one, because I know there's nothing that will ever feel that way because single moms kill it just straight up. And I respect the hell out of single moms because they're doing it all alone. Same with single dads, single parenting in general. They're doing it all alone most of the time with very little help. And there's nothing I can say or feel or do that will ever experience that. Unless for some reason I'm a widow. But let's hope that doesn't happen. There's been way too much death as it is as of right now. So I don't even want to think about that. But that's why I also have these people come in too, is because like I don't want to talk on a subject I don't know much about or I don't experience in my day-to-day life. So therefore, I will have someone come in and who will talk on these things as well. But also at the same time, like I know for certain things about myself, like for instance, I was late diagnosed autism and I have a late diagnosis with borderline personality disorder. Two of things that I am currently still learning on. Like I was diagnosed with both of those back in when I was 28. So 4 years ago. So early 2020, let's put it that way. And so I'm still learning a lot about these two things, and not not so I can use them as excuses or crushes as far as like a way to explain certain shitty behavior. That's not why I do it. I do it just so I can research it and learn better about it, so I can educate others as well. And again, that was another reason for the podcast to start, was because I had spent many years silent or, you know, not speaking up about certain things and just kind of sticking in the background or in the shadows and just going about my day because, people either didn't believe me or they thought I lied or, I was told that children are to be seen, not heard, or to sit on my hands or like something. So like I had shoved a lot of, early childhood down because I thought I was a freak. So like I never really talked about it, and like when I started to talk about it and open up about it, that I got, kicked off of one avenue. So I figured, with the podcast, like some of the times, yes, those episodes are silly, or sometimes those episodes are just nonsense, BS, bullshitting, like talk showy, whatever, just lighthearted. But there will be episodes that will talk about the seriousness of some things. And that's because I want to be able to help others. That's my whole purpose, I feel, in life. But just as a person, like I want to be the voice for somebody who doesn't have one. I want to be the safe place for people who never had a place to go, and to be that person to listen to them and not make them feel, inferior or less than a person or a freak or whatever. All those things that I felt growing up that has in a way molded me into the person I am, but made me believe those things itself. Like not only did I have all of these feelings that, for instance, imposter or I'm a nothing or I don't matter or all of these like stupid feelings. And I never liked feeling that way, and I never want anyone I know to feel that way. So if I could offer advice or a solution to others so they don't ever feel that way, is kind of why I, do what I do and why I'm doing it, is because I want, everyone to feel like they are loved and accepted for who they are no matter what. And yeah, there are times that I will probably say or do the wrong thing that sounds contradicting to it, but at the same time, like it's not meant to. It's not meant to sound like I'm picking apart a group of people or, whatever. There are certain things that I don't genuinely always believe in. And I am human, after all. But it has to be like a really huge thing for me not to believe it, for me not to think, or for me to even like disagree with it. It has to be something like super drastic. Like, for instance, I recently found out that there are people out there who are not changing their gender, but changing their, I guess, genetic makeup in a way. And what I mean by that is they are changing from human to animal. Can't really put my mind behind that yet. But then again, if I was to ever meet somebody like that, though I don't agree or understand it, I would never in a million years not try to. Because again, that's something I do. If I don't understand something or if I don't agree with something, I will do my best and my damnedest to try to understand it so I can either like fully get behind it or like whatever I have to do to help them. So like I wouldn't just knock it off as, nothing. I would do what I could to obviously support them. And if I don't fully agree with it, I I would never talk down or belittle them either. Like, for instance, there was an incident where I was talking with somebody. One person was a relative of mine and his friend. And so my relative thought that I was, being a bitch when I asked the question about something. And I was like, oh no, I wasn't trying to be like, I'm sorry if it came across that, but no, I genuinely just didn't understand it, so I was just trying to understand a little bit better. But no, my sole purpose behind it all was just genuine, and it was just, a general question. Like I meant no harm, no nothing by it. And so then obviously my relative had backed out, or not backed out, but backed off because he knew that I wasn't being rude. And that's my whole thing. Like, I don't ever want to come across as rude if I ask questions that may sound that way. It's never meant to. It's just, me trying to understand it better so I can, you know, fully understand a situation before, making a final decision or whatever the case may be. But with that being said, I am now officially home inside my dwelling, and there are a couple of things I have to do before grabbing my kids from school. So I will chat with y'all later. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if there's ever something you wish I would chat on or talk about or whatever, feel free to either put it in the comments or find me on any of the social medias or whatever, however you wish to get a hold of me. It's fine. And I will see y'all beautiful faces later. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for listening. And as always, stay unhinged, unfiltered, and unscripted. Are you